All right, folks, we're live.
Heyo.
We're doing something.
It's called feedback.
Trying something new.
There you go. Wow.
So
It's like the Wizard of Oz.
It's always an experiment happening. Hopefully that works.
Check, check.
So we're doing video today.
Yeah, well, we got some questions saying, hey, we'd really like to see you guys. I think they just wanted to see the beards.
Yeah.
Which you've been growing a lot longer than I have. And the only reason I was getting ready to shave my beard the other day. The only reason I didn't do it is because now in Portuguese I can ask Nella, where's Daddy's beard? And she rubs it. So
That's
I think
cool.
this is going to stay for a long time.
The little ones like the beard.
Yeah.
So it works out well.
Why are we here?
We are talking about bullying, cyberbullying, and rules for social media. Sort of related, but not necessarily so. So if you are being bullied, cyberbullied, these rules will help. If you are a bully, a cyberbully, these rules will help.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're none of the above, these rules will also be important.
You're just a parent.
You're just a parent.
Soon to be parent.
A bystander. So that's what we're talking about today.
Cool.
So let's get into it. Got a new setup, folks. So let's see how it goes. Once again, thank you for joining us. Best way to find out more about what we do is dragongym.com. It's like we do the same intro every time. Huh?
Foster Web Marketing. Yeah. So who are we? Some of you guys know who we are. We own the Dragon Gyms. You did this cool pin the other day of Google Map, and it was a pin in Exton, close to Route 30.
Mm-hmm.
A pin in Malvern on Route 30.
That's right.
A pin in Berwyn on Route 30, and they're each 6 miles apart from each other.
Yeah.
So we have Dragon Gym Exton, which is our HQ, Berwyn in Main Line, and now Malvern. And together we have over a century.
It's quite some time.
A lot of time. Thousands of students and clients. We train the trainers and, multiple martial arts and fitness certifications just because we like to continue to learn and, perfect our skill as much as we can.
That's right. So before we get into the details of today's presentation, we want to start with what we are sort of teeing up at the end of this is a town hall on this important issue, this idea of bullying, cyberbullying, and proper use of social media. Do you want to talk about the details of this event a little bit?
Yes, we're going to do it on Friday, April 5th at our Dragon Gym HQ, which is in Exton. And we're going to have a panel of people. We're going to have a local guidance counselor. We're going to have a child behavioral therapists and then a few other people that are going to be on this panel sitting as experts to sort of give their take on these issues, but then also to answer some questions and then in hopes to open up the dialogue and chat as well. We're going to do it right in Exton, in the heart of Exton. We're also going to offer free childcare. So the reason we know that a lot of parents don't attend certain things is because they have nowhere to place their kids.
That's right.
And you're not allowed to stick them in a closet for an hour while you go do things. So don't do that anymore. We're going to have what we call a ninja night. So essentially the kids are going to be looked after. They're going to be playing games. They'll be fed and they'll be having a good time while we're on the other side of the gym taking care of this serious business.
That's right. So why this topic? More than 1/5 of kids 12 and older self-report being bullied. And we'll talk about why this number is probably, so 1/5 is a 20%. So the statistic says 21% of kids between the ages of 12 and 18 report being bullied. Which means if this study is based on self-reporting, it's likely much higher than that.
Way higher.
Right? And we'll get to exactly how much higher that is later. Long-term effects on a person's life. And this goes, we talk about it in a later bullet, but when somebody's bullied as a child, early childhood, pre-adolescence, and through adolescence, it can have effects in both the short term and long term.
Mm-hmm.
Short term, is more visible and can be extremely painful. But over the long term, things like what we call outcomes, right? Earning potential and relationships, uh, even physical health can be affected. The suicide rate amongst adolescents and pre-adolescents, that I think probably um, was the catalyst for us putting this presentation together again.
Yeah, and I'm sure that we'll go into some detail with some graphs and some reference points and stuff like that. But this is the one that I think everybody should pay close attention to. And we'll allude to why in a little bit. But also the outcomes for the bully themselves is this can and often does create PTSD for both parties involved with it, and what's happening with that.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that when we talk about bully prevention, it's easy to focus on the recipient
Yeah.
of the bullying, but as sort of being it goes to our sort of be the coffee ethos, right? Is like we can harden ourselves against the bully, but what can we do to influence the environment and the community to help everybody involved?
Well, that's what all of this comes down to, is influence.
That's right.
People do the things they do because of the influences that they have. And, if we can be a positive one to those kids that aren't getting it, then, hey, there's the change we can make.
That's right. So what is bullying?
Depends on who you ask. However, I believe our definition is unwanted aggressive behavior. This is definitely a power imbalance, and it's repetitive. This is something that becomes habitual. So, in a little while ago, we had a child coming to me saying that he was being bullied.
Right.
I am not insensitive to this at all. I don't trivialize any of this that happens, because it did happen to me as a child. But it wasn't bullying. The kid was just being a knucklehead in a particular instant. So the definition of bullying is that it's repetitive, it's habitual, it happens all the time. It's usually in the same setting, usually by the same person to the same person. And it just keeps happening over and over and over again. It's verbal. It can be said or written directly. It's social. It affects their reputation and all of their relationships. And back in our day, this was essentially the only way that bullying happened, is that it was physical. It was hurting. People tossing your book bag, shoving you into a locker, pushing you into the urinal while you're in the boys' room, all kinds of stuff like that. So
to be clear, unwanted aggressive behavior is sort of like the umbrella of what we're talking about, but that can be just an altercation, right? So you and I hypothetically don't know each other. Somebody looks at somebody the wrong way in the bar or bumps into each other. That's unwanted aggressive behavior, but we wouldn't call it bullying.
Right.
So because there's no sort of establishment of power or hierarchy, and there's no way it's repetitive, right? We're just sort of ships crossing, right? So repetitive is really what makes the bullying worse, because they're somehow the recipient is in a situation where they have to see the aggressor over and over and over again.
Right.
And that's what makes it really hard to deal with, and sort of is the reason for these long-term after effects. Typically verbal, I think we see amongst both boys and girls. But for the most part, physical bullying tends to be more with the boys.
Yes.
And social bullying tends to be more with the girls. And I'm saying tends. It's not necessarily.
Typically, you're right.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the social bullying from girls in middle school is much more visceral than the physical bullying from boys in middle school.
Yeah.
Which people often overlook. Side effects. The bullied.
So that would be the recipient of bully behavior, right? So we're looking at things like depression, anxiety, poor health. So poor health, of course, depression and anxiety are symptoms of health. But what we're saying here is poor health, like poor physical health. Like they're getting physically sick, perhaps under eating or overeating, and diminished academic performance. So we see in all three of these areas, in the short run, a kid with depression and anxiety is sort of going to retreat into their shell, and they're not going to seek out opportunities. They're going to lose friendships. Their relationships are going to suffer. they will be less likely to raise their hand in class, so to speak. Poor health, you know, no sick kid is a happy kid.
Nope.
And diminished academic performance. Their grades start to suffer now. And in the long run, academic performance tracks with, not everybody needs to be a straight A student, but it definitely tracks with your.
Well, if you're in school and that person's sitting behind you or walking by you in the hall of the next class, there's no way that you can focus on your math homework or the history lesson in that particular day. So you definitely have a really hard shift in your focus from whatever it is that you're doing at that particular time to like, I know I'm going to get it in the hallway in 10 minutes. So,
right. How can you focus on learning
there's
if
no
you're
way.
worried about that?
Of
right?
course. Of course.
So, what are the side effects of being the bully? So, again, we don't really talk about this a lot because the bully is kind of seen as the villain,
right,
in this story, and in the microcosm of the story, absolutely, the bully is the villain. But in a larger picture, the bully may also be the victim of circumstance. They
Most
might
certainly.
be coming from a bad family situation. They might be dealing with some issues of their own. And then again, over the long term, we see that the child who bullies tends to fall into drug and alcohol abuse. There's an increase in criminal activity, and their relationships in the long run tend to be abusive.
Again, it's all about the influence that they get. Kids often do what they see. So if they see that this is a trend, that they're allowed to push people around physically, verbally, they see that at home, they're seeing it wherever it is, maybe it's in the neighborhood, they're going to do it. I mean, that's just what kids do. They're creatures of habit, and they often mimic the people around them. So I think saying that the bully is in some capacity, maybe not in the scenario of them bullying the victim, but in some scenario of their life, they almost certainly are a victim.
They are. And also, let's remember, the bully is still a child.
Yeah, there's a kid, man.
And we're the adults in the room, and it's sort of our responsibility to uphold the rules, of course, and enforce them, but also, what can we do to help this child out and set them on the right course?
Right.
And it is very easy to say, you're the good guy, you're the bad guy, and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to do the harder thing and say, you're the good guy, but you're also the good guy. And that sort of gray area and moral ambiguity is what makes life hard.
Yep.
The third category of side effects is the bystander. So bystanders are, they observe the bullying happening. Maybe there's a bully situation within a social circle. There's a clear victim, there's a clear perpetrator, and then the bystanders are sort of stuck in this middle ground of, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to stop the bully. They don't know how to help the bullied, and that affects them too.
Well, and they may know how, they may know what to do, but they're afraid to do it.
Yes.
If they tell a teacher, now you're a snitch. If they step in, now they're going to get punched. If they don't do anything, and they know, if we talked about this before, that this is a habitual thing. And in the case of when I was a kid, to me, it happened on the way to and from school. So it was in the same pattern every day. It was like on the way to school, it was on the way home, because the kid knew that he was going to get in trouble had he done it in school.
Right.
So all of the kids walking home from school then also had that same sense. I know something's going to happen on the way home from school.
Yeah.
And then they develop their own little, sort of ethos of anxiety, and they start to create this stuff. And you have written here truancy, like they just don't want to go to school now.
You're right.
They're not going to go.
Yeah.
Well, I got a bellyache. Oh, which my parents never bought.
No.
I didn't care. It didn't matter. You're going to school. I had perfect attendance in high school.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Until my senior year, and then I did senior ditch day.
That's how that goes.
That's what it was.
I had to was threatened with being required to repeat a year at school because I missed too many days.
From school or from your parents?
No, from school. From school. I missed too many days.
What were you doing?
We were in India for like a month and a half.
Ah, okay.
But, I never got the perfect attendance award.
Yeah, I got that every year. No one wanted that anyway.
So we have the bully, the bullied, the bystanders. What are ways to cope and stop the cycle of bullying?
So it's like everything comes down to communication. Is you got to talk about what it is, how to stand up to it safely. You know, I teach a lot of the kids that have been with us for a really long time. You know, this
Mm-hmm.
isn't necessarily something that I teach kids right off the bat when they come into the Dragon Gym, but you know, kids that have been with us for a long time, they know that number 4 of our precepts is, um, you know, have zero tolerance for those who violate others. And I teach them, if you see someone getting the snot kicked out of them, go do something.
Right.
You have to go do something because no one else is going to do it. And you're going to be afraid and you're going to be scared and you might take some collateral damage. But the second you decide to stand up to somebody, they're going to stop most of the time.
Right.
So, you know, physically teaching them what to do. Maybe
Now these students have been with you for at least 5 years.
Oh, 7, yeah, 6 or 7 years now
Yeah.
at this point. So they have quite a bit of training under their belt. You know, their feet have been held to the fire a number of times. You know, and even if it's something that's, you know, being done verbally or being done on the internet, you know, voice yourselves. Tell somebody what's going on and stand up to this person. You know, if you're a parent, check in with your kids often. Listen, you know, no matter how small the topic might be, if you start to dig deep on that topic, you might realize that that's not the problem. That there's a much deeper root to whatever it is that's there. You know, finding activities that build confidence and have aligned values. Martial arts, period. You know, I think that there's a lot of value in sports. There's a lot of value in other activities like music and stuff like that to help build confidence and things like that. But there's nothing that's going to give your child the tools physically to say, listen, if this moves from cyberbullying to in-person verbal bullying to now somebody's threatening my body, I have the tools able to take care of myself. And nothing really does that to me in my mind. You know, of course, we're biased.
Sure.
Right? Like the martial arts does. And there's a lot of really influential people that agree with us on that.
It's like martial arts is what we do professionally. A friend of ours, Professor Ricardo Almeida, wrote a really good article, 12 reasons martial arts is better for kids than team sports.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nothing against team sports. And, you know, you played team sports all through
high school,
lower school and high school. So did I. And, you know, we thrived at it. But it's just not the same as what you get out of martial arts training, both on sort of the psychosocial level and the physical level. Like ultimately, you know, you're going to get tough playing soccer and basketball, but it's not the same as getting kicked in the face and
repeatedly
and wrestling and, you know, the individual sports. There's something a little bit different there.
Yeah.
You know, this idea of finding an activity that builds confidence is not to be taken lightly, because just doing something where a child or the participant is naturally good at it, so they're going to excel and they're going to like to do it, but that in itself does not build confidence in the child. Right?
Just assures them what they already know.
Yeah. So on top of that, this sort of like everybody gets a trophy to build this self-esteem also does not build confidence. It actually does the opposite. When a child feels patronized, then they discount any real praise they get in the future.
Right.
And that actually diminishes their self-esteem and their self-confidence. So the activity has to be something that is this perfect balance of challenge and success.
Right.
If it's too easy all the time, it's not going to work. If it's too hard all the time where they're constantly failing, it's not going to work. It has to be the type of activity that gives them incremental challenges and markers of success. But with every success, there's something more that I need to accomplish, so that they can see and feel the growth and their ability to go from A to B to C, so on and so forth.
Let's talk about this. Everybody talking about this is the generation of kids who expect the trophy, right? Or kids that want a trophy. That's not their generation's problem or fault. Who are the people that are coaching, taking the kids to practice and giving these trophies? It's our generation.
Well, it's actually, so the Ange and I joke around, right? When like we complain, like maybe there's something silly going on in the news, and by silly I mean just the ridiculous things that are happening, right?
Things.
there's something like a silly product, or we're complaining about something like, kids these days, right?
Yeah.
But our joke is like, this is what happens when we're in charge.
Yep.
So we're the generation that came up, we're the Xers. We're right on the border, but Generation X, the children of the baby boomers. So the baby boomers are children of the greatest generation, right? So it's an interesting, depending on what lens you want to look at it. But essentially, when we came up as kids, the Xers are the self-esteem generation, where we said it's important to build self-esteem in kids.
Right.
So we came up with a certain level of sort of entitlement, and then that level of entitlement is now proceeding downstream.
Here's how we're going to build esteem in our kids.
Exactly.
We're going to give everyone a trophy.
Exactly.
Yeah. No.
So and expectations are the key, right? There's perception, expectation, and reality, right? So this other point before we move on, check in with your kids often. Listen, no matter how small the topic may be. So we are in a unique opportunity where our kids are very young, and we have been working with other people's children for decades.
Mm-hmm.
So we can sort of learn from our own experience and sort of our external experience of what people are going through with their kids, right? The struggles they have when their kids are in, they're toddlers, and then elementary school, and then the issues they have as they transition to becoming teens and eventually leaving the nest. And this concept really struck with me, is we are so busy out of our own making, and we're always looking for ways to sort of take a break and be distracted.
Right.
And we see this a lot, is a lot of the times we give our kids an activity to get a break for ourselves, right? And you need the break. But I think it's also, remember, is when your kids are young, and what's the definition of young? I don't know, younger than you.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to sort of blow off a small conversation. Like, I'm busy, I'm tired, I have to do work, whatever it may be, and you blow it off. No matter how little that is objectively, to the child, to the person younger than you, or whoever is coming to you, that might be the most important thing in their life right now.
Right.
And if they learn, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, they learn that they can't go to you with those things now, then they won't in the future when it really matters.
Right.
So that's sort of this idea, is like checking off and listen, no matter how small the topic may be. Take the time.
Well, I'll tell you what, like, I'm a new dad. My daughter is very young, and one of the things that I'm realizing is this is a job. This isn't something this life exists outside of parenting. Parenting is just an aspect of it. It's a huge aspect of it, but it's a job. You got to wake up, and you have things that you have to do. And part of the thing that we're responsible of doing is, rearing these children and listening to them and giving them all of the things that they might need, but, not, or want, but no, need, but don't want. Right.
Right.
So, how do we do that? But listening to them and that's something that, like, I've always appreciated that my mom was very good at. She's always sitting down, sometimes to the point where it was a pain in the ass.
Sure.
You're like, what's wrong? What's going on? Mom, I'm fine, but to have that ability to bounce things off of somebody that's willing to listen and willing to give you guidance. Like I said, that topic might be just the tip of an iceberg. And then you start to dive in.
We're not suggesting that you have to hold their hands and prop them up all the time, but you have to be there to listen.
Right.
And one of the approaches that we both came up with, I think, is, the example of, this is not bullying, but maybe you got bad marks on homework or on a test or something like that, right?
I have a good example, by the way. I'll tell you when we're done. Good.
And when you bring the marks home, your mom or dad doesn't do the math problems for you. Right. They say, hey, you got this wrong. What could you have done differently? Mm-hmm. Or if it's like an essay, how should you have answered differently? And it's up to you, with their guidance and direction, to come up with the new answer. Right. So in the case of bullying, you come home, and if you feel that comfort to talk to your parents, they may be able to say to you, hey, how should you have handled that differently?
Right.
And you come up with the answer, because the reality is, when you you being the child comes up with the answer themselves, they're much more likely to believe it and internalize it.
Right. So we've seen some like incredible parents. Like I've watched moms and dads juggle both full-time careers and have 3 and 4 kids, and each kid has 3 or 4 activities. We've also seen some pretty questionable stuff as well.
True.
And a mom came up to me years ago. The kid's actually still with us, been with us for a very long time. Said that her son, grades were slipping. He was having a hard time keeping friendships. They were back and forth to the doctor all the time. The doctor kept putting him on antibiotics because they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him.
Oh, jeez.
So I did what I normally do. And it's like, all right, we're going to go into the back room and Master Lonnie's going to chat. We're going to talk.
Yeah.
And, the mom came to pick the kid up. And I said, he's being bullied. I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
And she said, how did you know? I said, he told me.
Right.
I just talked to him.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of comes back to what we were talking about. Is like, we don't often feel like we have time to do this stuff.
Right.
You just worked an 8-hour day, a 12-hour day, a 14-hour day. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a nurse, it might be a 17-hour day. The last thing that you might want to do is come home and work another job.
And the last thing your kid wants to do
is bother you.
As strange as that sounds, because we know how much they can actually bother you.
Yeah, of course.
But they're not trying to bother you.
Yeah.
They're trying to get your attention.
You got to think too, is like, they have all these problems, but they don't have the brain capacity to learn actually how to like completely objectively work through these problems. They're looking for answers. They're looking for us to put our hands on their shoulders, turn them in a direction, and kick them in the butt and say,
that's right.
That's where you need to go.
That's right.
All right, go ahead. When you get lost, come back. I'll be here.
Yeah. Finally, model relationships, kindness and respect. So like, model here is, I'm using it as a verb.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go out and find a bunch of models and get relationships with them.
Model meaning like demonstrate relationships, kindness and respect.
Yes.
For each
other. Also, a good place for that to happen is in a martial arts school.
In a strong community.
Right.
And a good martial arts school will be a strong community. But there are, sort of in my like framework, there's 3 kinds of relationships, right? One is parent-child or a teacher-student, mentor-mentee type of relationship. So where there is a clear difference in the hierarchy, the position of these people, right? So you have those kinds of relationships where either you are really looking up to someone or someone is really looking up to you.
Correct.
Right. And then you have peer-to-peer relationships. So peer-to-peer is like maybe you're the same age, maybe you're not the same age, but you're on the same level in some way, right? So it's like you and I are also almost exactly the same age, but we're on the same level, right? And then you have the one that I think is possibly the most powerful, but oft neglected, is the near peer relationship. And the near peer is that person that's sort of in between the two. They're not on the same level and they're not like your dad. They're in between. Yeah. And because of that, early on, we were very successfully able to have these conversations, right? So it was like these kids were our students. We were late teens, early 20s. So we were in that strange spot between them and their parents. Right. And they felt more comfortable talking to us. So that's also part of this is, one, modeling and demonstrating all 3 kinds of relationships, but then also like let your kids know, like if they're afraid to talk to you, they can talk to us. If they're afraid to talk to us, they can talk to Joe and Evan and Joe and Tom. And if they're afraid to talk to them, there's other black belts, junior black belts in the school that they can talk to. Right. And that is, we'll touch on this later, but that's community, man. And that is really one of the key ways that we are going to tackle this issue. Yep. Okay. What is cyberbullying? It's bullying. It's the same thing. It's just the medium has changed.
It happens here instead of face to face.
instead of face to face. So we have any bullying that takes place. So that we said unwanted aggressive behavior, that there's a power structure involved and happens repetitively.
Right.
It's just happening over the internets.
Yep.
Can be on phones, tablets, computers, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, etc. So what we fail to remember or acknowledge. So Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, these are like the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
How many social media websites are there?
Oh, geez, I don't know. 100? How many?
I don't know. But this will give you an idea. So 2 years ago, we went to an event, and this guy JP, we're talking about this kind of stuff for like a marketing perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how many social networks are there? And people are like, oh, there's 5, and someone's like, oh, there's 10. It's like 255.
Whoa.
Right. But this year, so that was 2 years ago. Then last year, when we went at the end of the year, I don't know if you remember how many he said.
I don't remember.
It was over 800.
Oh my God.
So within a year's time, it went from 200 some to 800 some.
Yep.
So there are these social media platforms, whatever you want to call them.
We don't even know about.
We don't even know about them. And guess who's going to know about them before we?
Your kids.
The kids are going to know. So it's really important that we understand the conceptually what bullying is before we are too focused on like, okay, how do we deal with Facebook or how do we deal with the Snapchat?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what is the foundation of what's happening? Now, there are some critical differences with cyberbullying and quote unquote regular bullying. Right.
Right.
These are the types of things that people are doing, and adults are participating in bully behavior as well.
Malicious text messages, DMs. So moms and dads, if you don't know what the term DM means, that means direct message. That's happening on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, emails. These are the things that like kids have each other's numbers, and there's not a ton of like what I call like ride or die loyalty between kids until they get a little bit older. So you're in your teens.
Yeah.
So you have a 10-year-old friend that's messing around with somebody else. They don't really understand that concept of like, I'm not going to give you his number. I'm going to protect him to the end. Like, that's my boy. And it's not on any fault of their own. They don't really like create that ability until they're in their mid-teens. So the emails and the text messages and phone numbers are going to be thrown around pretty easily. Rumors that are sent, or even worse, man, posted, because that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is, you can see just in this short list, all 3 types of bullying are happening here.
Yep.
Right. And part of what we need to recognize is the kid that becomes the bully might be just trying to fit in.
Yeah. They're also looking for, if we go back to what the concept of a bully did during sort of our age of bullying, it was look for an easy target that that's not going to fight back.
Right.
Why? Because you want to blend into the darkness. You need to make an impact, and you need to get a response in return that you're looking for that you're not getting anywhere else. This allows them to hide in the shadows.
Right.
Now they can, instead of the 1 or 2 kids that they were bullying, now they can get 10. Right. Yeah. So now they have there's a lot of anonymity that's going on here. And the one that
it goes the other way. There's this like mob mentality. Now 10 kids can, and now it's 1.
You're just jumping on.
Yeah.
And these fake social media profiles have become a huge problem. There's actually an MTV docuseries that was, I don't remember the name of it, that was talking about that. And it's a terrible thing. Why is it worse, man?
So number 1, it's usually in combination. It's not even an either or thing.
Mm-mm.
So this person is a victim of quote unquote traditional bullying.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're also going to be a victim of cyberbullying.
Yep.
It is piling and piling on. And you can't escape the behavior because the internet is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you're getting bullied on the bus, you can get off the bus.
Wouldn't it be nice if the internet like went on hold for a day, 1 day a week?
It can.
It can.
It can.
So we're talking about this. It's the fact that it doesn't stop. So here's a scenario that I encountered, and here's how my bullying stopped. Is that it always happened to me on the way home from school. So I used to do these things called intramural sports. We would stay after and we would play basketball or baseball, whatever it was. And then all the neighborhood kids would walk home, and inevitably on the corner of William Street and Pennsylvania Avenue, there he was.
Yeah.
So one day, threw the book bags down. We got down to business. The bullying stopped. It was met head on. I didn't give him what this person wanted anymore, and the bullying stopped. He moved on to somebody else. This doesn't stop because you can't confront it head on. There's no way to do it.
Yeah, you can't go toe to toe.
Can't go toe to toe.
Often, the cyberbully is anonymous because they're hiding behind one of those fake profiles.
Quiet, man.
And whatever malicious content is put out there spreads rapidly. Something can go, like, literally go global almost instantaneously.
You see that house that was for sale the other day, and I think it was like Lower Marion or Wayne or something.
I didn't see it.
All right, I won't mention it on here, but it was from some reminiscent of some movie that a lot of ladies like to watch, like 50 Darks of Grey, 50 Shades of Grey.
Ah.
And they had some, like, it went on the market at noon and it was viral by 3 o'clock.
Oh my gosh.
3 hours. This thing was all over the country.
Incredible.
It's the same thing.
Incredible.
So it's impossible to track that source, and things will spread like wildfire. And here's the other thing. If it's on the internet, it's on there forever.
Forever. There's a cool website called the Wayback Machine.
Okay.
And I went on it for just like our own marketing purposes. So you can put dragongym.com into the Wayback Machine, and you can see all of the different versions of the website we've had over time.
Oh, cool.
And I can see, like, oh, this version was performing very well, and this version was performing very badly. Way back to the early days of us having a website. So cool for, our perspectives of running a business. But the lesson is, like, it's there. Like, those websites have been deleted 3 and 4 and 5 times over.
And they're still there.
And it's still there. So the internet is forever.
Anybody watch The Sandlot? You ever watch The Sandlot?
No.
What?
Why are you surprised by that?
Probably not. Forever.
Why is it worse? Because it's constant. The same side effects of regular bullying are exacerbated.
Yeah.
Poor grades, truancy, lower self-esteem, health problems, drug and alcohol abuse.
So here's the thing. We were talking today about local schools, and all the local schools feed into one school.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that things used to be spread back in the day was word of mouth, this, that, and the other. Now you're going from one school, they're all feeding into another school, and all that information is in everybody else's right here.
That's right.
So by the time you get to that school, you already have a reputation, should this be happening to you. So the
I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Right.
Very true.
So the physical thing is like, all right, well, now my bully has, this is back in the day when we were younger. Now my bullying has a larger pole to pull from. Maybe he'll, refocus his attention onto somebody else from a different school, and I'll sort of blend in. Well, maybe there'll be another guy. I don't know. But the option is that this might stop. Cyberbullying will follow this kid for a very long time. It'll go from elementary school to 6th grade center to middle school to high school to college, because again, everything's right here on the internet. So now we're talking about PTSD and anxiety and depression because you can't escape it.
You can't escape it.
It's going to follow you.
That was sort of the beauty of transitioning. It was an intimidating time no matter what, going from 5th grade to middle school and going from 8th grade to high school. You're intimidated.
Yeah, of course.
But it also provides an opportunity to sort of,
you can blend in.
Multiple schools are merging into one. You can find new friends, get a new clique, and then going off to college is like
new life.
Totally.
But now it's the kids looking in the corner and going, hey, look, there he is. That's him.
Right. That's right.
I never thought I'd see him in person. It's almost like you're a celebrity, but like in the other direction.
Yeah.
How about that? They have a word for like not wanting to go to school.
Yeah. Yeah. Warning signs. So
The only reason I knew that is because I never wanted to go to school.
Warning signs. Warning signs. So what are things to watch out for in your children that might be indicators that they're being bullied, or for that matter, something else is going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? Unexplainable injuries. So
What's that mean?
This is physical bullying.
Mm-hmm.
And your child has bumps, bruises, and there's no good reason for them to have them.
No.
Right. And that could also go to the last one, self-destructive behaviors. If
I'm talking about self-harm.
Yeah. Lost or damaged belongings. Somebody's book bag is torn, or their clothes are torn. They're missing things that they went to school with. There's a possibility that a bully is taking them or damaging them.
Yeah.
And you alluded to this earlier.
Headaches and stomach aches.
It's not that they're actually getting them. They are complaining about them because they're worried about going to school. Now, both of these are likely a sign of bullying, but they could also be a sign of something else. So if your child is frequently complaining about headaches or tummy aches, there might be something else going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might be a fear, a generalized anxiety. They may be experiencing a lack of affection or personal touch from you, the parent. Again, because you're busy or detached for whatever reason. So they're expressing this way because when they present as sick, they know they will get more attention.
Yeah. Oh, come here, hang out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So keep that in mind as well. Changes in eating habits, loss of appetite, overeating. These are all, hey, we see adults do this too. They're emotional compensation behaviors, right? Change in sleep patterns, experiencing frequent nightmares. Grades start suddenly dropping off. You have a solid AB student, and all of a sudden the grades are going down. Could be a sign of bullying in older kids, maybe in high school. If you see this, really, it could be a sign of some other kind of trauma as well. So it is something to look out for. Loss of friends, avoiding social events, decreased self-esteem, and again, self-destructive behavior. Those could be physical behaviors, but also skipping school, something as simple as that, delving into drug and alcohol abuse as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Back in the day for us, it was kids smoking cigarettes and stealing beer or whiskey. You have the good drink. Hopefully nobody's paying attention to the fact that I'm drinking Michelob Ultra. So what do you do at this point?
So it's important to remember only 40% of bully incidents are reported.
So, we do a lot of stuff with domestic abuse, physical abuse, whether outside of domestic relationship. And the reports of that are actually higher. I'm sorry. They usually say somewhere around like 50 to 60% of those aren't reported as well. So we think about what you said in the beginning, only one fifth of kids are getting bullied. Well, if you do that math on 40%, then that number is expanded exponentially. So, there's a lot of signs there to figure out that, your kids are being
It's about
bullied,
double that, right? So if 1/5 of kids are self-reporting, that means 2/5 of kids, roughly.
2/5 is,
I don't
know.
4 out of 10 kids.
Yeah.
Give or take. Are actually being bullied or have been bullied at some point. So this is what we need to do. Adults need to respond quickly, consistently, and appropriately.
And I think that it all starts with our next bullet point is open communication, is understanding what's happening, being creative in, how to get this information out of your kids. So, I think that, one, we as parents often project our frustrations on our kids.
Yep.
So you're going to meet this, your kid's not doing well in school, they're not sleeping, they're not eating, it makes you frustrated, it makes you feel less of a parent. So then you approach that conversation with that same amount of angst, is to pull back a little bit and be a little bit more pragmatic with your conversation and say, hey, look, what's happening here? How can I get this information out of my child in the best possible way, that so you can get down to what the real facts are. So I think it all comes down to that, and create a community of behavioral standards. You want to go into that one?
So a couple years ago now, how long ago?
What?
Did the junior elites come up with the precepts?
2 years.
2 years ago. So behavioral standards are something that our community has always had in different forms. Some
and they've
more,
evolved. Yeah.
Yeah. And some more formal and some more just sort of implicit. And the idea of behavioral standards is like, this is what we will allow, this is what we will not allow, and this is what we stand for.
Right.
And that's what it comes down to. So it was very interesting to see how over the years, even kids, teens, preteens had absorbed this information, amongst their other influences. And these are standards that go to all aspects of life and personhood, so to speak, is, physical aspects, mental, intellectual aspects, but also relational aspects. And how do we, what is our obligation to a community and to a society? And that's what these behavioral standards are. That's what the precepts say.
Yep.
So I think it's important that, look, we're always going to say, like, join a high quality martial arts school. And if you're anywhere within a, 24-mile radius, we have a school for you.
Come to us.
But,
and if you're not, we'll find one that's good for you.
We'll find one that's good for you. But, it's one thing to say, like, oh, we have a community. Anybody can say that, right? But they have to have these sort of behavioral standards and have to be clear about what they are. And that's not to say that they're good or bad, but when a community has good standards, clear standards, I should say, rather than good standards, clear standards, you can determine if they are aligned with your values or not.
Think about how crazy it is that people create a big part of their ideology around Whole Foods. Like this is part of what they believe in.
Yeah, like capital W Whole Foods.
Yeah, Whole Foods. Yeah. So like I am a whole fooder. Like I am this person that, like, I only go to I'm not saying I may, but I kind of do. But I only go to Whole Foods. I only shop these naturally, organic, naturally, locally sourced things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look into every Whole Foods, what separates Whole Foods from every other one, other than their buying decisions and their sort of respect for the community and the earth, is every place you go to, they have the standards written up on the wall.
Yep.
This is what we believe. This is how we buy things. And people bite into it. They dig their heels into it because people want something to believe in, and Whole Foods gives it to them.
And people want a way to demonstrate what they believe.
What'd you say a while ago? People will pay for it more than they will actually
pray for it.
So,
and it being meaning, right? So people are more willing and more apt to pay for meaning than they are to pray for meaning.
Which is why Whole Foods is significantly more expensive. They understand that. They exploit that, and good for them.
Yeah. Moving on. So, again, reinforcing some things that we've already talked about is listen and focus on the child. Assure them that it's not their fault that they're getting bullied. They may need to talk to someone else, and that someone. The reason I put the else is there's like sort of like when you use the phrase like, hey, you need to go talk to someone, the connotation is like you need to go talk to a professional. Right. Like a counselor or a psychologist or psychiatrist, which may be true. but also the someone else means like they're talking to us instead of mom and dad.
Right.
That's also an option.
Yeah. If who knows what the deeper meaning of the issue is, but one of the things as parents that we have to understand and be willing to admit is that sometimes we don't have the tools necessary to be able to work through this issue. And having a professional is, I think, for our generation and generations before, I mean, come on, they call them shrinks. Like, they shrink your mind. You're not allowed to think this way. And but being able to talk to somebody that might be a behavioral therapist or specialist and learning how to work through and cope with these problems it's an incredible resource that we have today in this world, you know?
Yeah, and I really don't think it should be stigmatized.
No.
Like it is.
We'll grow out of it, I think, just like we do everything. We
Yeah.
sort of evolve as a culture, but we have some great resources as well. So if there's some people out there that feel that their kids might need to speak to somebody, contact us and we'll put you in touch with some really good people.
Teach them what to do and practice it. So this might be physically defending yourself, but it might be something else. How to walk away, how to stand up to a bully verbally, how to interact with different people if you're in this bystander situation.
Right.
But the key is to practice it. That might be role playing. It might be physically practicing moves.
You know who Tom Segura is?
Name sounds familiar.
He's a famous stand-up comedian.
Okay.
And he used to get bullied in school for being fat.
Sure.
So he said what he did was the kids used to tease him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So he said that he made up funnier jokes about himself being fat and all the people stopped bullying him. And he goes, I just met them with what they were trying to get at me. But the fact
he
is,
went up them.
He would practice it every night in his room. So whether you're practicing, that's your defense, or maybe it's learning how to walk away or learning how to say no to a particular group of friends, or, maybe you're on the bullying side of it, is practice it often. Practice makes
permanent. So there's this idea, Jim Bouchard has a quote, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but there's a gap between knowledge and skill, and practice fills that gap.
There you go.
And work with others. Okay. Home stretch here. Rules for social media.
So a lot of what we have here is sort of referencing is this Jonathan Haidt?
Indirectly. So he's sort of how we got to this information.
Yeah.
But this is just it's research.
Yeah.
Done, published in. So we have the link. We're not going to go through all the.
I went through that link. I encourage you, if whoever's listening to this, to click on that link. I mean, it opens up Pandora's box, but there's a lot of really great graphs in there as well. So it's a lot of good information there. Check it out.
So, some summary points from this research. More screen time is associated with lower well-being. And that's kind of like a general thing. But on look at the study on like several different markers. Lower well-being in children between the ages of 2 and 17. And I'm guessing 2 is because they did not study younger than 2, the effects. Because there's like, how do you get the data?
Right.
High users, so that means high screen time, show less curiosity, less self-control, and less emotional stability.
Well, it's like the whole less curiosity thing is, how can you have any level of curiosity when it comes to like going outside and playing or doing, when you can just look it up? You can have these experiences instantly.
There's no opportunity for wonder.
Nope. You can't wonder anymore.
But especially in a child.
My dad told me, he said Google ended his reign of BS because he used to be able to just throw facts out like nothing. You'd ask my dad a question, he'd have an answer. But Google ruined it, man, because we started figuring out that like 2/3 of the stuff that dad used to say, he was making up.
So my father-in-law used to have this thing called Cosmic America. And what it was like just all the stuff that he made up.
Okay.
It was part of Cosmic America. So when people not in this area, you'll just have to bear with us for a sec, but we live in the suburbs and the closest big city is Philadelphia.
Yep.
Right. So the sort of main artery to get from the suburbs to Philadelphia is called the Schuylkill Expressway.
Yeah.
And when you drive down the Schuylkill Expressway at night, you can see these large towers with these like red flashing lights, right? Radio towers, whatever they are.
In Manayunk.
In Manayunk.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So, and they have these red flashing lights, and they are, they're technically microwave towers,
Okay.
right? So he told his kids that that's how microwaves work, is that the microwave towers send beams to the little box.
To your microwave in your house?
And cook the food.
And they all believed it.
And they believed it for years.
Holy smokes.
So
you can see them coming into Philly on an airplane.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Google has ruined that for fathers worldwide.
Listen, it's ruined a level of humor. It's ruined a level of curiosity. It's wonder. Like what? Here's the thing. This was a really cool part of the internet, is that years ago I went to Brazil and I visited my wife's family, and her grandfather had never been out of the town that they grew up in, and I was able to take him with Google Maps to the house that we lived in. And I zoomed in and I showed him the neighborhood, and I took him down the road to the gym and took him down the road to my mom and dad's house. But somebody said the other day, why would I ever go to Africa when I can just go on there on Google Maps or, Google World? What's it called now? Google
Earth.
Maps. You can Google Earth. Yeah. But people are doing this. You don't have the ability to, or you have the ability to go on this thing and see anything you want at any time you want, rather than discovering it yourself. Why would you do that? For this generation, that's what they do.
It's a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I like getting mud on the tires and getting the boots dirty and going out and digging and, breathing the air, but it's changing.
Twice as many of these kids had anxiety or depression.
Twice as many.
But here's the thing. Non-users and low users had similar results. So what does that mean? Is like there's no significant benefit to completely eliminating screen time.
Yeah.
So it's better to be a low user, but going to absolute zero. One, it's not practical.
No.
In the world we live in. Two, there are some benefits with that, right? If you were an absolute zero screen user, you couldn't have shown.
No, I wouldn't have been able to show him that. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, here's a link. We'll put it in the show notes as well to the research that we're talking about. So rules for social media. Kids, limit all screen time to less than 2 hours a day for minors. So minors being anybody under the age of 18. And the 2 hours mark seems to be the inflection point between a low user and a high user.
Okay.
So if you're under 2 hours, you're a low user, life is good. Over 2 hours, you are now a high user.
It's so easy to get to 2 hours. You have that feature on your iPhone that tells you how many your weekly usage is.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's incredible how much time we spend on these things. And what could you be doing instead?
Man, so much stuff. Talking to your kids. Your kids talking to you.
Your kids talking to each other.
There's some people in here going,
yeah. A friend and coach of ours, Dan John, was very strict about this kind of stuff. And he was talking about his daughters. And he said his daughters were like in high school. And they asked if they could have a later bedtime. And he was like, what do you mean? You don't have a bedtime. You're like 16. And they're like, oh, we thought we had to go to bed at this time. It's because they didn't like have any of this like TV and stuff. They just went to bed early. They just went to bed. And they're all like D1 athletes and all that stuff too.
That guy. His kids are like.
All screens off at least 30 minutes prior to bedtime.
Blue light, man.
No choice.
Yeah.
No choice. And family dinner. So family dinner to me is kind of like a metaphor. Because it's like family dinner may not just be possible at all times. Like, okay, I get that.
Any
like
activity.
for us, like we're better at it now. But sometimes like because of our work.
Yeah, we don't
Family
get home
dinner is
till
not
10
possible.
o'clock. Yeah,
It's not possible. Like I can't expect my daughter to stay up till 10
right.
when we get home from the gym some nights. So that's like it's not possible. But what that really means is there are meals that you sit down and eat together.
Put it away.
It might be breakfast, it might be lunch, it might be a snack, but there are no devices at the meals. None.
Mm-hmm.
These are the rules. Rules for social media. Adults.
2 hours.
Very similar.
Same.
Very similar. Limit non-work screen time to less than 2 hours. Non-work. Look, I know a lot of my time, a lot of your time goes to writing. We write on the computer.
Yeah.
We're spending more than 2 hours.
Or, social media stuff and posting.
Yeah.
Writing posts.
So we'll be reasonable.
Yeah.
But we have to have that caveat. Less than 2 hours of non-work screen time. All screens off, at least 30 minutes to bedtime.
This is a huge one.
Yeah.
A lot of people that I know, me included, have TVs in the bedroom. We actually don't watch our TV in the bedroom. And I'm going to move that TV down actually into this room.
Nice.
But, turning the TV off, just reconnecting with the person that you're there with, whether maybe it's, making a bath or, stretching or breathing exercises or reading a book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's weird. 30, 45 minutes before you go to bed, you're going to get a higher quality of sleep. If
higher
you don't
quality
have
of sleep,
infants and toddlers at home, but
well, that doesn't last forever.
No, it doesn't.
But the habits do.
Yep.
Family dinner, no devices at meals.
Influence. Remember, kids are doing whatever they see. So if they see you do it, it doesn't matter. They'll do it too. So this is a controversial one. The delay of subscription till at least high school. There's some substantial research that shows some pretty alarming data of kids that get on social media before high school.
That's right.
So I've been doing some basic conversation around the gym with parents and kids in particular, asking them when they got on social media. And it is not uncommon for kids to say 6th grade.
6th grade.
9, 10, 11 years old. Okay. That they're getting on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
The kids aren't getting on Facebook. That's where their mom and dads are. But they're getting on Instagram and they're getting on Snapchat and one of the other 850 social media platforms that they are, that we don't understand. Understanding that, delaying that as much as you can until high school is insanely beneficial to their health and well-being. All devices are kept in a central room. We have this sort of this is going to be our media room. We just moved here, so things are still getting worked out, but this is where the TV is going to be. This is where the iPads will be. This is where the computer is going to be set up. And then the rest of the house is kind of disconnected.
It's just a house.
It's just a house.
Yeah.
Moms and dads got to be on. What do you mean by on? And I understand having the passwords. And also, by the way, a really big red flag is when if you have access to the passwords and you see them being changed.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge red flag.
So what I mean by on is as best as you can. We have a student who's now an instructor and she's a parent at the gym. Many, actually, I can think of examples of this where they themselves would not be on any social media platform. They're sort of slightly older than us, but enough older that they're before the window of social media.
So they're on social media simply because of the kids.
Correct.
That's like going to the bar as a dad just to watch your kid.
Totally.
That's awesome.
Totally. But that's necessary.
You're not kidding.
So you go and you create a profile.
Imagine this scenario.
First person to do that I heard about this was the Willises.
Okay.
Right. And if they're listening, they won't mind telling us.
Yeah.
Is that their kids were, getting to that age, and now their kids didn't get on till till like high school age.
Right.
The kids were getting on. They're like, okay, we have to get on so we can see what they're doing. Rules were, moms and dads have to have all your passwords, access to your accounts.
Right.
Right. So it is what it is. Right now, one way to go, it's like, what's the direction of security? Right? Is the kids create the accounts, they know the password, and they share it with you.
Sure.
That gives them the opportunity to change the passwords.
Sure.
Right. Okay. There are softwares out there, and I'm not plugging any particular software, but this is where you can use technology to your benefit, right? Is where you control the passwords and share access with your kids. So it's like, you want to be on social media? Here's the password. Here's the encrypted share. You can't change it. Only I can change it. So that's one way to control it.
Right.
Right. Now, that doesn't prevent them from necessarily going out and creating their own account.
No, it doesn't. But being on there is, so imagine this scenario. You can't stop your child from going to this particular bar. I used the bar reference a minute ago. I'll go back to that. I'm not going to be able to stop my child from going to this particular bar that I know that there's a heightened level of use of rohypnol. For those of you guys that don't know what rohypnol is, it's roofies. All right, so there's a heightened level of rohypnol at this place, and I know that my daughter's going. I can't stop her. You bet your butt, dollars to donuts, my rear end will be in the corner of that bar watching. I'm going to be watching every single person that comes near her. I'm going to be watching her drink. I'm going to be watching what she's doing. Call me a psycho. It's fine by me. I love my daughter more than I love my own life. So I'm going to do that.
That's right.
Get on social media and track them. So if you guys aren't, again, this isn't necessarily a witch hunt to really shut the kids down. But if your kids are on Instagram or Snapchat, you can see who they're following. Go see who they're following. Click on a little button that says following, boop, and you'll start to see who is influencing your kids.
And learn the platforms.
Learn the platforms.
You have to.
They're so easy. Snapchat's not that easy.
I mean,
Instagram is like.
But here's the thing: they're so easy a child could use them.
It's true.
That's the lesson.
Touche.
Right. Where are we? Oh, turn it off Tuesday.
Yep. Make a day in your house that people don't use stuff.
Right.
Turn it off. Don't go on social media. Obviously you need to do your work. So emails and texts and things like that need to be answered in phone calls. But, this is not an opportunity. You're getting rid of the opportunity of watching stuff on TV, on tablets, on your phones. Get rid of everything that has anything to do with entertainment on Tuesday digitally. Gone. Break out the cards. Break out the board games, books, blocks, whatever it might be. I had such an awesome time yesterday playing with blocks, like numbered blocks.
Oh yeah.
I was in there for like an hour. I would just build something, and
she would like stacking them up like long ways and then high.
Yeah.
So there was like a barrier.
Yeah. And then Godzilla would come over and knock it over,
them all down,
and then I would build them back up, and it was such a cool thing to do. But yeah, Turn It Off Tuesday is a really cool tool.
More rules, guys. More rules.
We're at an hour. Holy smokes.
Yeah. Serious topic. Again, we are going to be having the town hall on April 5th, Friday night at Dragon Gym in Exton.
And here's the cool thing is I think you and I have a lot of alignment on our views on this. There's not too much disagreeing going on here.
Yeah.
However, we are going to have some people that share some different views than us. This is not an echo chamber. This is not us trying to push our ideology or our opinion. The idea of this event is to have a panel of people that have expertise, but also different opinions on how to do stuff. So,
yeah.
So what does appropriate mean?
No impersonation.
This next word is incredibly extinct.
Etiquette.
Yeah.
So the internet gives one potentially a veil of anonymity, but it also gives a barrier, right? So it's like the things that I can get away with doing and saying when a person is in the same room as me are very different than the things that I can do sitting behind a desk on a keyboard.
Sure.
Right. So is number one, no impersonation. If you're going to be on the internet, you are who you say you are.
That's it.
Right. There are things you can do to protect the security of your information, but that's different. Right. No impersonation. Number two, etiquette. You don't do anything. You got to be a nice person. You wouldn't do anything on the internet that you wouldn't do in person.
There's people that troll UFC fighters. Like, do you think any one of those people would ever do that to that person's face?
No,
because the
no.
consequence is so incredibly high, right? So you have to, that sense of etiquette has to extend, or else it's just going to be savages.
No sexual
or
content or innuendo to that matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's not allowed in either direction.
Yeah.
Right? Don't share any personal information.
Mm-hmm.
Where you live, phone number, date of birth, even potentially, passwords. Don't meet anyone in person without vetting. Right? And how do you vet them?
Their social media.
And vetting is extremely hard to do.
It's hard.
It's hard to do. In most cases, if you only know somebody through the internet, you should not meet them in person.
Probably not.
Right? It should probably go the other way. You should meet them in person and then interact with them on the internet.
Yeah.
That is crazy talk. Social media is not a measuring stick, right? So this goes to, the relationships you have with your children, and again, the communities that they're plugged into, is not to compare themselves with what they see on social media. It is a losing battle. It is a losing battle. And even we have been pulled into that.
Yeah.
It is very easy to see like, oh, this person's doing that person's doing this. And, but it is a facade.
Yeah.
It is a facade. And don't,
that in
don't
itself creates its own level of anxiety and depression,
totally,
and debt, and sadness,
and like anything else that you do as a parent or guardian, teacher, instructor, mentor, near peer, is there should be real consequences when rules are broken.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be. If you have certain rules set up for the use of technology and social media and those rules are broken, you need to enforce the consequences, whatever they may be. Some larger font.
It's forever, man.
The internet is forever.
You're not getting away from it.
So here's a great guiding principle.
Mm-hmm.
If you wouldn't want your mom to see it,
don't post it.
Don't post it.
I don't think I have any posts like that. Like even back to the days, like I think I got on Facebook in 2006.
You were early.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
2006 is when I
Were
got
you on
Facebook.
MySpace?
Oh yeah, I was on
Man,
MySpace.
You were an early adopter.
Were you on MySpace?
I was.
So
like
somebody came out and said, how cool would it be for your Instagram profile to have like the song that you want everybody to hear? And somebody posted like, finally we're at a generation who doesn't know what MySpace is.
About MySpace. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is funny.
But yeah, I think, in terms of the way that I've sort of always tried to present myself publicly, because that's essentially what it is. This social media, whether you like it or not, is your life's resume. And oftentimes employers are using social media more than they are using.
We
100%.
Do. Every time we get a job application,
I go right on their social media.
First thing.
What are they
doing?
Things
to do?
I got pictures of bongs and keg stands. Well, I know that I'm probably not going to talk to this person, or, maybe I'm going to be a little bit more skeptical going into it, but, always use that. If you wouldn't want your mom to see it, then don't post it. So this is going to be a really cool thing. This concept started out as an idea of just doing it for a small group of people. But I talked to actually, I asked her if it was okay if I gave her a plug. The CEO of Mainline Parent, Sarah Bond. She's going to be a part of this. We're going to have a big community here of experts, child behavioral therapists, guidance counselors, parents. And then we're also getting, which is going to be cool, a really unique perspective from some high school kids as well. That's on right. What is bullying? How prevalent is it today? And then the use of social media and the threats that are around it. There's going to be free childcare there. So bring your kids, drop them off. They'll be well looked after by Dragon Gym instructors. So if you're in the area, Friday, April 5th at 6:30, come. We're going to have a good time. We'll have seats and tables and probably have some refreshments and coffee as well set up for you guys. And an opportunity also to have some open dialogue with a panel of people that might not share the same opinion on everything, which is refreshing and uncommon.
So what to do next? If you want to work with us in more capacities, give us a call.
363-7575, dragongym.com, Fosterweg Marketing.
Fosterweg Marketing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we also do these free orientations and test drives. So, if you or your child's interested in becoming a part of our community, come in and just try it out. Give the phone, the number a call, schedule an orientation with one of our staffers. We'll give you a tour of the gym, introduce you to all the instructors. And then we have a really cool little private room in the back that will take you through some of the basics and fundamentals of what we do and see if it's for you. I like this.
To get a hand, you need to give a hand.
Yeah.
Be the coffee.
Be the coffee.
Thanks, everybody.
See you later, guys. That was a good one.
It was good.
Hour and 15, man.